to everything in your life, including social life, healthcare, work, and more. And we do partnerships with different organizations like RTD to do these lunch and learns where we can teach you about a different transit service. So today we're learning about Access-a-Ride. And thank you so much, Gretchen, for joining us today. We're really excited to get started. So yeah, feel free to start your presentation, and thanks so much again.
Okay, thanks. It's good to be here, and I'm happy to meet with everyone. Let me pull up my slides here. And I'm trying to just get it into the right mode. There we go. All right. So we have a lot of things to discuss with Access-a-Ride. Just the first thing that I'll start with is just letting everyone know that it is complimentary paratransit. Paratransit is a comparable transportation service that is required by the ADA for individuals with disabilities who are unable to use fixed route transportation systems. So the comparable part comes in that its service mimics that of fixed route transportation service. So when fixed route service is available, so is paratransit. If fixed route is not available, unfortunately, paratransit will not be either. The service is provided for individuals who have a disabling condition that prevents them from using fixed route service some or all of the time. It is not based on the presence of disability, but the way one's disability impacts their ability to travel in the community. That is what helps to determine eligibility. It is not an income-based service or a service that is dependent on you having Social Security disability or other determinations of disability. So it is shared ride service. It is scheduled 1 day to 7 days in advance. Curb to curb service is our baseline. And we say that because there are certain situations where we may not be able to safely provide door-to-door service. Those instances are pretty few. Most of our service is door-to-door. And the service is provided within 3/4 of a mile from the fixed route bus or rail service. And the 3/4 of a mile is not it is as the crow flies. It is not dependent on the route that you might have to take to get to that service. And we'll do some more discussing about service area a little bit later in the presentation. Eligibility for Access-a-Ride is determined under ADA by 3 factors. The first factor is whether or not one is able to navigate trips without the assistance of another person due to either a physical or a cognitive disability. Category 2 is it's determined as for systems that do not have accessible vehicles or accessible transportation to, or accessible means to get to bus stops, train stops. Our service does have the capacity to provide, it has the accessibility with our kneeling buses and the light rail ramps. So we have an accessible fleet. Category 3 eligibility is for those that are unable to independently get to and from a bus stop or get on or off using the lift because of the destination or the features that are in that pathway. Okay, we have eligibility for people over 6 years of age to use our service. And as noted here, again, eligibility is not based on financial hardship. There are several different types of eligibility. The first is unrestricted service, and that's for those customers who are unable to navigate fixed route independently at any time, based on either physical or cognitive disability. Conditional service is service for customers who are able to navigate the fixed route systems independently in some situations, but they may not be able to do so in others. So it could be that low light or bright light circumstances are difficult. Certain weather conditions may impact one's ability to use a fixed route service. And so those are situations where paratransit would be an available option for those individuals. May also be dependent on destination characteristics or pathway characteristics, such as lack of curb cuts, steep hills that are in the path as one travels from one place to another. And then we do have temporary service for our customers that are undergoing specific treatments, they're training with new equipment, they're recovering from surgery. So those are temporary certifications, are generally for the process of just getting through a specific point in time or period of time. And that's usually determined with the medical professional and by the customer themselves in discussion with our certification center. And then we do have visitor eligibility. People who are paratransit customers in other jurisdictions can contact us in advance and provide us with their eligibility information. And this is something we also provide for our customers, so that when in another area and traveling, it is possible to use 21 days of visitor status in a given jurisdiction to be able to use paratransit anywhere you travel. Anyone have any questions so far? Sorry, okay. I just want to highlight that this is our page of the RTD website. If you note, there is at the top, it's through the services link, and then Access-a-Ride will be listed. We do provide a lot of information here, and I do want to encourage everyone to check out the extent of the information here. The tabs here provide general information about our service, information about our customer portal, our Access on Demand program, and very importantly is our customer guide. So where to find information about how the service works and what things you need to know. I'm just going to reference some of the pages of the website during the presentation to just increase everyone's awareness of what's there, because we do provide a lot for folks, and we want to make sure people are finding it useful. So for the application process, there are 4 different components, or 3 components really. The written application, which is completed by the customer or someone on their behalf. The medical verification form, which is completed by any number of providers, and there is a list provided of those that are qualified to provide that information. And then there's an in-person interview, and then if indicated, a transportation assessment is completed, and that is in conjunction with the interview process. So our application is located on the Access-a-Ride page of the website. There are gray boxes along the right side of the page that highlight both an interactive process where you can complete the application, download it, or print a PDF and then print it out. Or there are PDF copies there that you can complete, that you can write and complete them that way as well. And so those 2 forms, both the medical form and the application, are available there. If you do not have access to a computer or are not comfortable with the whole process of the PDF, we do offer our forms through our administrative office, and folks can call there and get one mailed to them anytime they like.
Is the form only in English?
Well, it is, but our entire website can be translated at the very bottom of it. So if you go to our website and you go to the bottom of the page and translate the entire page in whatever language, the application will also translate in that language.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Gretchen.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about the in-person interview and the transportation assessment? Or do people from RTD come to people, or where do they have to go for that? And how does that work?
You're a little ahead of me.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I will. No, that will be discussed. Do not worry.
Okay, great.
I'm just going step by step through.
Sure.
So once the application is completed and the med form are completed, both forms should be returned to us at RTD, and the address is posted on the website and in the instructions of the application, and the fax number. People are eager to be able to email things. We cannot secure the content via email at this time, and nor do we have the processes and staffing in place to process it a third way. So these are our ways. I know that's sometimes not desirable for all, but that's how we're accepting them at this point, and they keep coming. So it is still possible to get it done in those ways. When we have someone who is a new applicant, their profile is created, they are contacted to schedule a certification appointment. If customers are recertifying, their profile updates are made, and the content is reviewed, and many are referred for assessment, but we do have a process where customers may not have to come back for assessment. All that information is determined based on the information in the application itself and in comparison with the previous certification information.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
If I complete my part online, will I be able to upload my medical form to go with it?
It's not an online completion. It's all done via printing the application. There's no online submission.
Okay.
But the documents do not have to come together. We have med forms that come separately from the application and vice versa. We hold on to them and hope that the rest of the application gets to us. Sometimes it is an incomplete process, but yeah, we try to marry those.
Gretchen, sorry to interrupt. Dylan was asking in the chat if the form can be printed and written on.
Yes, I encourage people to print the PDF copy if they want to write it out. It's just a little bit shorter and a little easier to manage than to try to print the bubbled copy, the interactive copy. That's the first two. So yes, it can be printed and written on.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see the chat with my screen up, so I appreciate that. Okay, the last step in the process for certification is the certification appointment. During that interview, the written information that's both from the doctor and from the customer themselves is reviewed, and any additional needs or travel issues are discussed. So it's a fine tuning, it's getting a little more information if there's need for clarity, or if there's any kind of confusion or discrepancy between the two documents that are received. That's when that is taken into account. And then the process looks at people's abilities based on the need. So once the interview is completed, sometimes it's very clear during the interview that a person cannot travel independently. They lack physical skills, cognitive skills, communication skills to be able to do those travel tasks, and the assessment may not be needed. But there are times where we do need to get a little more information. Can someone manage a curb? Can someone manage a ramp? Can someone walk a specific distance? Are they able to cross a crosswalk in a safe period of time. Those are some of the items that are looked at in the assessment. And they're looked at until someone has too much difficulty being able to do them. So we don't push everybody to complete every portion of the assessment because that's what we need. We take them to the point where this is all they can do. And so we have enough information based on that, that we can make the determination based on that information. And we do have, you know, interview guides that help the assessors to make, you know, to guide them with the right questions based on the issues that a specific individual may have. So we're not trying to, you know, take every person through the same process. We're trying to look at where the strengths and where the needs have been identified, and to make determinations and to ask the questions and see the skills that are impacted by those conditions. And then the last part of the interview and assessment is just reviewing some of the features of Access-a-Ride. So we highlight for everyone as they come in, what are the important things they need to know as they're starting to use the service. So that gets folks a preview of what's to come once they have their certification. Our certification center is located in North Denver at 3851 Steel Street. It's the lovely, it's the door next to the garage door that you see in the photo. And it's an interesting graffiti that's on the screen there, but that's our center. So just to the right of the garage door that you see. We do provide transportation to the assessments. That would be very difficult if we had everyone come for an appointment but didn't provide the transportation. And we do provide on the Access-a-Ride page of the website, we do provide directions by bus and by car to get to the facility if people need that help. Google does a pretty good job of getting people there, because that's where we've worked with Google, or MTM, I should say, has worked with Google to make sure that it's easily identified when someone is going to the certification center.
Gretchen, we have another, oh, sorry.
Yes,
we have another question in the chat from Adriana. She says, is the site where you apply for Access-a-Ride, is it only translated on the interactive form then, or is there a different translation somewhere else?
Oh, I'm not sure if that's, well, it should be I don't know if the directions are translatable. That's a good question, and I can follow up on that. It is, those links are to our webpage, the specific web pages, so they should be, but I do not know that. That gives me something to check on and follow up with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It also, those links, if you follow them, they do have overview pictures of how to drive into the site to be able to get to the location. And we just had, the location had a new ramp poured that is closer to the door of the facility. So we'll be updating that information in the coming weeks once the ramp has been approved for use. Okay. So one of the things that was discussed is the need to kind of just review how our service works. And this information, I will show you, is available. This is on our website on the customer guide page that talks about how to schedule a trip and how to make a reservation. I'll go through this slide first and take a look at that, but we do offer trip scheduling between the hours of 8 and 5, or if you use our customer portal, you can schedule your trips as long as you schedule them before 5 p.m. the day before your travel. You can schedule them that way as well. There are 2 ways to schedule trips on Access-a-Ride. There is by appointment or by pickup time. So the customer can fix one side of the pickup time. They can decide, I want to arrive by a certain time. This would be for trips that you take to an appointment with a specific time that you needed to be there, or to work with a specific time that you needed to be there. You want them, you need to be there by that time. That's when you need to have the trip scheduled. So you can say to someone, to the reservation agent, I need to be there at 8, and then they will negotiate with you a pickup time that will get you there by 8 o'clock. Or you can say, I'd like to be picked up, after your doctor's appointment, I'd like to be picked up at 3 o'clock. And so the reservations agent will look at the current schedule and say, well, we could pick you up at 3:15, or we could pick you up at 2:50, and you could make a determination based on that, those options that they can give you. So when you schedule, you will provide all the information that's needed for the appointment, the ID number, the address for the pickup and drop off, your phone number, if you have anyone traveling with you, what kind of device are you using. All that information needs to be discussed when you're making that reservation. And then if you need a return trip, that should also be discussed and provided as well. You will be provided with a 30-minute window for your pickup time, and that's based on the routing and the pickup and drop-offs that are scheduled around your trip. So when that 30-minute window is scheduled, you need to make sure that you're ready at the beginning of that window, because the vehicle could come that early. The night before, you will get an automated call that will remind you of the trip and confirm the pickup window time. If they've had to make adjustments as they schedule the routing for the day, that will be noted and reflected in that reminder call. If you're using the customer portal, the nice feature about that is that you can check the status of the vehicle and get a better sense of where that vehicle is on its way to you, so that you have a little, you may find that you have a little extra cushion in that 30-minute window to get ready if you're tracking it on the portal. And then our interactive voice system will call out 10 minutes prior to the arrival of the vehicle, to advise you of that. Now, I am told that the IVR call out is not as specific as we would like at times, and it depends. It's a little less reliable. I've had people tell me, well, I was sitting on the bus and I got my 10-minute reminder call, and I guess sometimes these things happen, but it's not as close a tracking system as the portal. So the portal is encouraged, and it's a great tool to use for that. Once the vehicle arrives, you have 6 minutes to get to the vehicle. And most of the time that works. The driver will come to the main door of the entrance and assist you to the vehicle as needed. If your 30-minute window has passed and the vehicle has not arrived, customers are encouraged to call dispatch to check the status of the vehicle. That's the best way to get information, but they will not talk to you unless you have waited until that 30-minute window has passed, because the vehicle is still en route. And then there's another link to the customer guide there. Are there a couple more questions, I think?
Yeah, so we have a question from Jan that says, how does someone access the transportation to the certification appointment?
So right now we're using an IVR system that calls you when we're ready to schedule the appointment. So when the appointment is scheduled, they will ask you, do you need transportation? They will set up and communicate the transportation to you. So when you're scheduling certification appointments and you request that transportation be provided, that will be set up for you. You do not need to schedule it separately. And you will be called the day before to confirm the appointment and to provide the pickup window, the 30-minute window for that appointment.
Great, thank you so much. And we have one more question in the chat from Zoe. Are there any exceptions or alternatives for folks who cannot easily go to your office in Denver for the assessment? Is there a Zoom option?
We do not have a Zoom option. We need to have people present in person. Yeah, that's something that it is allowed for us to require that as part of the ADA. And if someone really cannot make it to our certification office, then typically my next question to them is, are you sure this is the service for them if they can't come in for this appointment, especially if they're a new customer? We need to at least see them that first time.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to let everyone take a look through all the information that needs to be communicated. Again, this information is all located on our website on the customer guide page. One other thing that I'll highlight that I didn't touch on the previous slide was that we do require that 1 hour of time elapses between your drop-off time and your pickup time. So if it looks like you aren't going to make that one, like say your doctor's appointment ran long, or you're not going to make your scheduled pickup time from your destination, then you can call and cancel the trip and then request a will call trip for a trip that needs to be modified. Okay, fare information. So Access-a-Ride tickets are available in ticket books, either through our website or at King Soopers and Safeway locations that sell our tickets. Also, all of our ticket outlets will sell them. Local tickets are $5, regional tickets are $9, and tickets to DIA are $20. And we have just this past spring started mobile ticketing through the mobile ticketing, RTD mobile ticketing app. So that has been a great feature, and a lot of our customers are really enjoying not having to deal with the money transaction or ticket transaction. And you can also pay in cash with exact change. We do not make change for our customers. It's just a lot to carry and manage. If you need to have someone travel with you to assist you while you're traveling, personal care attendants can be recorded in your account. They do not pay a fare, but if you do want to bring someone else with you that is not an attendant, that person will be required to pay a fare. And the current paper tickets that are being sold and that people may have available are good through December 2023.
We have a couple more questions in the
Sure.
chat from Aza. If you are taking kids, if a parent is taking a kid and they need their kid to accompany them, can you pick up the kids from school and take them to appointments, and do they have to pay?
Well, the trips would be for the parent, the certified customer. So if the child is our customer, then we could certainly pick them up from school, take them to school, take them to appointments. We would not be, it would be if that child were our customer. If there are children that are accompanying, again, anyone that you want to bring with you needs to be recorded at the time that you're making the reservation so that there is space available on the vehicle. We do require that children ride in the appropriate seating for their age, and that we do not secure those seats to our vehicles. We expect that the parent will be the one securing those booster seats, car seats, whatever needs to be secured.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
We have 2 more questions. So if Sue asks, if I go as a guest, do I need to get approved prior to riding?
If you're a guest of a certified customer, no, you don't need to be approved, but that reservations needs to include that you are coming. because there may not be space on the vehicle for you if it has not been reserved.
Great, thank you. One last question from Jan.
Sure.
For someone who has difficulty with phone calls, is there a place on the application for a contact number for the person and the support person? And if the person doesn't answer the phone, can you reach out to a support person in a different way?
So we request on the application that the primary contact number be provided to us. So that can be the individual. A lot of times it's a representative for the individual, or if it's noted on the application that we're supposed to call a care manager or something like that for the scheduling of the certification appointment, then that's the number that we'll put in the contact information for that IVR call. We also, that's not the only means that we use to contact our customers, but we're finding that between 50 and 60% of people respond really well to those calls and call us back and get their appointments scheduled. After 2 weeks, we then send the list to the call center, and those calls are, they're reached out to, those individuals are reached out to separately. And if we don't get through to the primary number, then we'll use the emergency contact number. If people have provided a secondary number that's someone else that can help them, then we'll also reach out to that second number at that point. The very last step that we take in trying to get someone scheduled for a certification appointment, if we haven't heard back from them, or if they haven't responded to our messages or calls, we mail them a postcard to remind them that it's time to get the certification appointment scheduled. So we use multiple ways to get in contact with folks.
Great. Thank you so much again.
Sure.
And we have one last quick question back to kids with disabilities. If a parent takes a small kid to school, would the Access-a-Ride bus provide the parent a ride back home or a ride back to work?
We don't do multiple stops, if that's the question. So you would have to take the child to school, and then you would have to wait for the next pickup.
Sounds good. Thank you so much again.
Sure. Or actually, well, let me back up. So if the child has the disability and is being dropped off at school, no, the parent would not be taken back on the Access-a-Ride vehicle, because the parent is not the customer.
Thank
I
you.
think I understood that right.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
You got it.
Sorry.
No, don't worry.
We ready to keep going?
We are. Thank you.
All right. So this is one of the features that we're talking about in terms of service area, because I know there have been some issues with folks knowing that they have service or where the service area is. I don't have a great overview map that I could say, here is what our ADA service area looks like. Unfortunately, that is just, I don't have the space on any computer to be able to paste it in or drop it in. But the best tool that we have is our service lookup. And this is also available on the Access-a-Ride page of the website. It's about, I don't know, halfway down on the left-hand side of the website. And the nice thing about this lookup is that it will, if you put in your information, it will tell you, for a given time that you would like to travel, whether or not service is available then. What it will also tell you, I see, this window here has the address and there is service available. So if service were not available, this would be a red box. And it would say at the bottom, it would either say service for this location is available at another day or another time. Or it might say there is no ADA service for this address at any time, or this address is not located in the ADA service area at any day or time. So it is the case that there are folks that do live outside of the ADA service area. We do work on finding locations that are close to one's location, if that is the case. So if someone lives outside the service area, I have a means in my GIS mapping to be able to say, you are so far from the service area, there is a Starbucks or a King Soopers or something, you know, a mile away that could get you into the service area. Or, you know, sometimes it's closer than that, but I can take a look and we can work out a way to find a location that might work. It's not always foolproof. We realize that sometimes folks do not, you know, have a means to get to any point outside of their home address. But, you know, we try our best to find locations that are at least semi-convenient to that. We do encourage and strongly encourage that if someone lives within our service area, uses our service regularly and depends on that service, if you're going to move or if you're going to change residence, change host home, change wherever you're living, that you use this service area lookup to determine whether or not you should move to that area. It happens with some frequency that people call us and say, oh, my home address isn't in the service. I moved and I don't have ADA service anymore. What can I do? And, you know, we do have Access-a-Cab and Uber service that I'll talk about in a minute, but there's not a lot we can do in terms of extending our service area. That's pretty well defined. And given that the overall district is as large as it is, it's hard to consider what an expansion will do to the quality of the service and the number of directions that we would have to extend that service is a little overwhelming. So, you know, just because you live outside the service area, it doesn't necessarily mean that you wouldn't qualify, you couldn't be eligible. It just means that we might not be able to come to your home to pick you up. Any other questions come up in that?
We do have one question from Adriana. If someone who is autistic is physically able to walk to the bus stop, but they're not able to know how to navigate transportation routes, are there any trainings for them to learn how to travel independently, or are they eligible to apply for Access-a-Ride?
So obviously they would fit into that category of being unable to navigate the system. So they would almost definitely qualify for eligibility in some situations or all situations, not, you know, that would be determined. But we do offer travel training. MTM is our certification provider, and they offer travel training service where they will train somebody on specific trips to be able to, you know, travel from home to the destination prescribed. And they will travel on multiple trips. It will need to be, you know, once one is successfully done, then they'll need to get back in line to go for the next trip that needs to be trained. But they work with those customers to understand, you know, how to take the trip, what to do in certain situations. You know, I was talking with Sarah, our program manager, the other day, and the question came up, well, what would you do if you're, you know, if you had to be rerouted? Well, I would use my cell phone. Well, what if your cell phone was dead? Well, I would charge my battery. Well, what if you didn't have your charger? And so taking them through all the steps of what else could you do, so that it was, you know, so that they felt pretty confident that they could do that route independently. And they confirmed that they can do it independently before they release them from that training.
Great, thank you. That's all the questions for now.
All righty, thank you. Okay. So I just am including some phone numbers that I did not have earlier. Reservations is to book in advance, and the phone number is there. It's also posted on our website, both on the Access-a-Ride page and on the customer guide page. Dispatch is where you would call if you need to inquire about a same-day trip or to cancel a same-day trip. We do request and highly suggest that our customers schedule at least 2 hours before the trip departure. We do have a suspension policy that will kick in after a minimum of 4 cancellations or no-shows in a month. But we encourage folks to cancel as soon as they know they're not able to take the trip, because that, people who don't cancel or people who don't take their trips, don't show up for their trips, really impact the service for everyone else. And so we're trying to reiterate for folks that how you handle the service also impacts everyone else who's using the service. And it just makes us more efficient if we know as soon as possible that a trip's not going to be taken, obviously. And for folks that don't want to call or handle things online, that customer portal that is accessed through our website, and then it can be downloaded to your home screen on your phone. That's a really great way to cancel trips if you're not sure you can get through to someone on the phone, or you don't have that option at that point. So we do, for the customer portal, we do require an email address be in your account. That's what, for your security's sake, that's what gets you access to the portal so that no one else can sign in and manage your trip, manage your trips for you or manipulate your trips. But you can let us know in the administrative office by either calling us or emailing our paratransit eligibility email to get that added to your profile. Okay, just another glimpse of our webpage. This is the customer guide page of our website. And it has a lot of features. All of these are drop downs that you could get information about. What about luggage? What about guests? What about service animals? All of our policies. All of this information is available for your perusal at any time. And we encourage folks, we do provide people with paper copies of the customer guide when they are certified, but we also have the information available online so that if you are out and about and not sure of things, you could check online if you were so inclined. Okay, so one of the things that was asked is just how can people in the community help get people set up for Access-a-Ride? What are the steps that can be taken? Obviously, the same process would need to be completed for all, but if you are helping someone with Access-a-Ride application, just know that we really want the applicants to understand what they're applying for. So often we have social workers that fill out the forms and send them in, and we call a customer and they have no idea what we're talking about. And maybe that conversation was had, but the more involved the person is in the process of applying, then the more they're going to understand what they're applying for and what the importance of it is for them. So just making sure that, it's understood that it is about whether or not you're able to use fixed route bus service. It's not about whether you have a disability, but the impact of that disability on your travel skills. It is not about whether you can drive or not. People can still drive and use Access-a-Ride if that's the case. People, it's not dependent on any of those things. And that, one of the things also to review with someone is that they do need to know that they will need to come to our assessment center at least once to complete their application. And then if the applicant is unable to sign for themselves, we really do, especially in the case of someone that's not cognitively able to understand what's going on, we really encourage and strongly recommend that those assisting get the guardian to provide that signature and to understand that this is what's happening on behalf of the client. We've had some situations where it was clear that a guardian was not involved and there were some communication issues, and it just gets very awkward, and we're trying to be the bridge between a provider of some sort and a guardian. And so getting guardians involved early in that case is really helpful for us. We do require the medical verification forms. We don't need extra documentation. We are interested in the person's ability to use travel or to travel in the community, and that's what our form is dealing with. We don't need a lot of extra information. And yeah, there's a lot of effort that goes into some of it, and we just, it's more than we need a lot of times. If you have a question of service availability, or if you've gone through the lookup and you want to know, before applying, it says here that my address isn't in the ADA service area. How far away am I, or how close are we? What is the closest pickup point? Feel free to call our administrative office and we'll work that out with you. We'll try to find out, what might be a convenient spot for that pickup and drop off location. Okay. And then I'll stop here and ask for other questions first.
Thanks, Gretchen. Yes, so there was a question from Amy, but it looks like Amy hopped off the call. So I might ask that question just via email and put both of you in an email thread just so we can answer that question there. But does anyone have any further questions? We have about 7 minutes before the lunch and learn ends.
A general question. I'm trying to find your catchment area. I live up here in the mountains, and thinking perhaps if one of my neighbors needed this and I was able to give some information about the service, would
Sure.
we in Coal Creek Canyon be in the catchment area?
So I am not as familiar with that side of the world.
Yeah,
what
we
I-
are pretty far flung. Our closest bus stop is gone now. The G is not running at the moment. And that's the only bus route in at the base of our canyon on 93. Anyone in Coal Creek would probably have to go over to Netherland.
Yes, I was
Catch the
going to
bus.
say that Netherland is probably the closest
Okay.
option. But again, if you wanted to, you could certainly call us and we could try to figure out what might be the right place also in our
Okay,
administration.
for a door-to-door.
Yeah, to see if what would be the closest thing. Sure.
Thank
I
you.
have a quick question. When people call you and they're a little out of the area,
Mhm.
do you suggest paratransit in their area to get them to where you can pick them up? Like via or other services?
Oh, well, yes. I mean, we'll offer to them, we have a pilot program with Uber and we'll offer to them, well, if you had a short trip, you could take Uber. If you had a longer trip, you could take Uber to that intermediate location that would be good for you, the pickup spot. So yeah, I mean, that gets a little more complicated and sometimes people aren't up for that. But we try to figure out, other options. Yeah.
Yeah, because especially like people with an electric wheelchair that needs a different service.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything
Thank
else?
you. So we do have 2 more things in the chat.
Yep.
Looks like Dylan says that thank you for the presentation and just wanted to let you know that the printable version for the Access-a-Ride that's linked as a PDF is not translatable, just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, the PDF wouldn't be, but we are working on RTD is working on a language plan. And so we will be having more availability for translated documents.
Great. Thank you so much. And then we have one more question in the chat. Looks like Caitlin says, we have heard from people with work with that they are not eligible for Access-a-Ride that because they have a driver's license. Is that correct? Or would they be eligible if they meet the other criteria?
It is about your ability to travel in the community on fixed route that determines it. It is not the presence of a driver's license, no. So, but if you have a driver's license, you may possess the travel skills needed in other situations. So, but that's not how we determine it at all. So yes, I mean, there are individuals that have Access-a-Ride cards and are eligible for Access-a-Ride, but they still drive. They just can't drive to all locations, or they can only drive at certain times of day, things like that. So there are all kinds of options and combinations of abilities there.
Definitely. Thank you so much again. And we have 3 more minutes. Gretchen, if you have, yeah.
Yeah, I can go through this list real quick if you want, if this brings up other questions. In terms of how long it takes to apply, that is somewhat directly related to how many applications are coming in at once. We're currently getting about 20 applications a day through fax and mail, but that depends on the day. So we're processing those within about a week. They're all processed, and we can get people scheduled within a week's time usually. Scheduling the appointment depends on the person's availability and when our appointments are, so that can be a little complicated, but I have appointments available Tuesday and Wednesday of next week if someone had a completed application and called to schedule. So the Access-a-Ride fares, we do get a lot of questions about whether or not there's a discount for the Access-a-Ride fare. The Access-a-Ride fare of $5 is already very deeply discounted. Our trips are very expensive. And so, aside from social service agencies that may provide tickets or access to tickets for customers, we don't have any other way to discount the fare. And then we do have other options such as Access-a-Cab and our Access on Demand with Uber. Our customers that are certified can either take a taxi trip or an Uber trip, where they pay the first $2 of the trip. And then for the cabs, it's up to $14 or up to $12 additional that is subsidized by RTD. For Uber, it's up to $20 that is subsidized by RTD. And for Uber, you must schedule right now. We are in a pilot phase, and you must schedule and do all your trips through the Uber app at this point in time. Did I see more questions pop up?
I think we are all out of questions and also all out of time. So I think that was the perfect amount of time. Thank you so much, Gretchen, again, for doing this lunch and learn with us. A little round of applause for Gretchen here for teaching us all about Access-a-Ride. That was incredibly informative, and we really appreciate it. And yeah, if there's any last questions, I can put my email in the chat, and I'm sure Gretchen has an email as well. It looks like she might. Oh, you're not frozen. Perfect. Oh. Yeah, so we'll be around if you have any further questions. But again, thank you so much for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your day today.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Gretchen, are you still there?
I am.
Oh,
I was
perfect. You were
out there
freezing.
for a minute. I'm just
No,
like,
no
oh, what's
problem.
going on?
Totally fine. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much again. That was so informative, and we can't thank you enough for helping us teach Access-a-Ride. It was really, really great. So thank you.
Well, I hope it was. I think I covered everything that was the goal. To talk about Uber, because that's going to be another conversation in and of itself, I think. But I appreciate the time and the opportunity.
No problem. Yeah, we'll
Thank
be
you so
in touch.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll email you a little bit more about the the Uber Accessoride pilot. So we can possibly plan
Okay.
another time. But yeah, again, thank you so much and hope you have a great rest of your
Sure.
day.
All right, thanks, you too. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.